on World News Tonight.
Making landfall. Cyclone Biparjoy continues on its path of destruction in India's Gujarat. Suspects arrested. 9 apprehended in Greece for people smuggling following the boat capsizing disaster that took dozens of lives. Sanctioned again. A federal grand jury indicted a 21-year-old US National Guardsman over the leak of top-secret military intelligence records online. Theatre of Light. Spanish icon shine in South Korea as visitors explore the Theatre of Light.
This is the Derana World News Tonight. Reporting from Colombo, here is Sanuvi Mudanayaka.
Good evening, and you are watching World News. Cyclone Biparjoy's wake of destruction continues with the storm moving deeper into India. Roofs were blown off houses and trees and electric poles were uprooted in several parts of India's western state of Gujarat. A severe cyclone made landfall overnight as more than 180,000 people were evacuated in India and Pakistan, and heavy rain lashed the coast.
Powerful winds and torrential rain lash western India and southern Pakistan as Cyclone Biparjoy barrels closer to land. Wind speeds were expected to reach up to 140 kilometers per hour in India's Gujarat province. Pakistan's southern Sindh province was also preparing for the worst.
Heavy rainfall is continuing. It will continue, and heavy to extremely heavy rainfall is expected. Tidal wave of 2 to 3 meters will inundate the low-lying areas of these districts. So up to midnight, the landfall process will continue, and hence it is the most dangerous part of the cyclone.
Towns and villages up and down the Indian and Pakistani coastlines lie empty as residents flee the wind and rains. Indian authorities say some 100,000 people have been evacuated to relief camps. And in southern Pakistan, officials there say more than 70,000 people have been given temporary shelter away from the storm's path. But some accuse local authorities of not doing enough to help.
We're poor and we come from a poor village. So far we have not received enough food. Our floor is wet and our food too. We came here on foot because there was no transport. We brought our belongings on our shoulders. Our children are in a bad state.
We came here to this relief camp, but so far we have not received enough aid. Our children are getting food, but it isn't enough. We don't know what to do.
Experts say climate change could be leading to an increase in cyclones in the Arabian Sea. In 2021, a study showed that the number of extreme weather events had risen dramatically in the region since 1982.
3 people were killed and dozens injured when a tornado ripped through the Texas panhandle town of Perryton in the United States. The National Weather Service in Amarillo confirmed that a tornado hit the area, but there was no immediate word on its size or wind speeds.
On the heels of a tornado outbreak, another round of severe weather relentlessly rocking the country again from the Central Plains to the southeast. New storms breaking out in Florida and Oklahoma, where residents felt the force of high winds and hail, which in the last 24 hours doled out a jaw-dropping output. Hail coming down in buckets on this person's boat west of Little Rock, Arkansas, putting a basketball-sized dent in the hood of this car and thrashing the windows of several other vehicles. The medley of stormy strikes, keeping more than 20 million in a severe weather zone that's already produced at least 10 reported twisters across 3 states, including Texas, where this building in Cass County had its side sheared off, and a couple states over in Warrior, Alabama, uprooting these massive trees. The weather picture as a whole going from wind and hail to heat hell in Texas. The city's emergency operations centers keeping a close eye on conditions and taking the rare step of deploying a heat emergency plan in mid-June, not July or August.
We're looking at approximately 10 days of over 100 degrees.
That spawned a quick rush to get some 350 air conditioning units to Houston area seniors like David Diaz, a 70-year-old Air Force veteran.
Hot. I was sweating.
Who was relying on a single fan to stay cool. This heat wave also reigniting concerns about Texas's aging electrical grid, ERCOT, which has never failed during a heat wave, but has experienced mass fatal disruptions during snowstorms.
The U.S. Treasury Department said it had imposed sanctions on 2 China-based North Korean nationals it accused of being involved in procurement of equipment and materials in support of the country's ballistic missile program.
The U.S. hit North Korea with fresh sanctions on Thursday after the South Korean military said Pyongyang fired off 2 short-range missiles. The Treasury Department said it had targeted 2 China-based North Korean nationals it accused of helping obtain materials for Pyongyang's ballistic missile program.
So we will continue to take action to hold people accountable for such activities.
Japan's prime minister said the North Korean missiles landed in Japanese waters and said there were no reports of injuries. The reported launches came as South Korea staged military drills. Pyongyang had warned the exercises would be met with an inevitable response. U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller condemned the actions by North Korea, or DPRK.
These launches are a clear violation of multiple UN Security Council resolutions. They demonstrate the threat of DPRK's unlawful weapons of mass destruction and ballistic missile programs posed to the region, to international peace and security, and to the global non-proliferation regime.
This comes as U.S. President Joe Biden's national security advisor Jake Sullivan was in Tokyo for meetings with his Japanese and South Korean counterparts. They discussed North Korea's missile program and confirmed they would work closely together to get Pyongyang to abandon its nuclear weapons. That's according to a Japanese readout of their meeting.
A federal grand jury has indicted 21-year-old U.S. National Guardsman Jack Douglas Teixeira over the leak of top-secret military intelligence records online.
A federal grand jury has indicted a U.S. Air National Guardsman over the leak of military secrets online, according to the Justice Department on Thursday. 21-year-old Jack Douglas Teixeira is accused of committing one of the most serious U.S. security breaches in recent history. The Massachusetts native was arrested in April after allegedly posting highly classified information on the messaging app Discord. They contained information on a wide range of subjects, from Ukraine's air defenses to Israel's Mossad spy agency. That sparked concerns about how a low-level airman could have such broad access to military secrets. President Joe Biden has ordered an investigation.
Yes, I've instructed the department to make sure that they get to the root of why he had access in the first place.
Teixeira was indicted on 6 counts of willful retention and transmission of classified information. Each charge carries a sentence of up to 10 years in prison and a fine of up to $250,000.
Residents in Ukraine's Rushivka village are facing an acute water crisis after the destruction of Kharkova Dam, and the massive reservoir provided water to the wider population, as well as to Zaporizhzhia's nuclear power plant.
This village in Ukraine's southeast is facing a water crisis. 72-year-old Halna says she's been using pots, bowls, and glass jars to collect rainwater. But she's unsure how long it will last for her family of 4. Since the destruction of the Kakhovka Dam last week, the nearby reservoir has lost around 3/4 of its water. That's left hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians without normal access to drinking water across a swath of the south, according to President Volodymyr Zelensky. Water taps have been turned off for many of the village's residents. Those who had water storage pools rushed to fill them up. This is Alexander, another local.
4 cubic meters will last a month, but is not enough to wash and shower.
Only 15% of residents still have water running from their taps. Others have to rely on water brought in by the authorities. The local administration delivered 2,160 bottles of drinking water for residents on Wednesday. But more than 7,500 people live here. Across the country, the problem is much bigger. The massive reservoir provided water to the wider population, including farmers and industries, as well as to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. It also supplied a vital water canal to occupied Crimea, which was seized by Russia in 2014. Ukraine's military intelligence agency has accused Russia of deliberately blowing up the dam to halt Kyiv's long-expected counteroffensive. Russia has accused Ukraine of attacking the dam. Ukraine's environment minister said nearly 4 cubic miles of water had already been lost since the dam's destruction unleashed catastrophic flooding in the southwest. The Ukrainian government scrambled to set up alternative water supplies and limit potential health hazards from contaminated water, channeling over $68 million to help.
We'll be back with more world news after this short commercial break. Welcome back. Former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson deliberately misled lawmakers over breaches of his own COVID-19 lockdown rules. A parliamentary committee has found in a devastating and unprecedented report that lambasts Johnson's conduct and recommends he is refused a pass to enter the parliamentary state.
Former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson deliberately misled Parliament on several occasions over rule-breaking COVID lockdown parties. That's according to a long-awaited report produced by the Privileges Committee, the main disciplinary body for British lawmakers. The report, published on Thursday, also accused Johnson of being complicit in a campaign of abuse and attempted intimidation towards them. Johnson has shot back at the findings, describing the report as deranged. He's further accused committee members of waging a vendetta against him. The report covers 6 events held at Downing Street, and concludes Johnson committed a serious contempt, made worse by the fact that it was committed by the Prime Minister. Although Johnson has apologised for his conduct, he has repeatedly denied deliberately misleading Parliament. He says he took advice from his aides and that his office were following the rules.
Say to you, hand on heart, that I did not lie to the House.
The committee rejected his defence. The more than 100-page report further recommends Johnson be denied automatic access to Parliament. And, had he still been a serving MP, it would have recommended a 90-day suspension. Johnson resigned last week after seeing an advance copy of the report. In a statement, he said he believed that the events in question were, quote, reasonably necessary for work purposes. The committee's conclusions are a new low for one of the country's best-known and divisive politicians, who just 4 years ago led the governing Conservatives to a landslide election victory.
But them's the breaks.
But the so-called Partygate scandal ultimately spelled the end for Johnson, who was forced out in a rebellion last year.
You know about a report that I haven't even seen yet, so it's hard for me to comment on it. But
Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has declined to answer questions about the report, stating earlier on Thursday that he hadn't yet read it.
9 Egyptians have been arrested on suspicion of being people smugglers after the migrant boat disaster off Greece and claimed the lives of at least 78 people.
Taken from a helicopter just hours before the disaster. A chilling picture of the overcrowded vessel in line with the testimonies of survivors. Only a fraction of those on board made it to the shore.
They arrived 104 people, young men, and 30 people went to this hospital for the treatment in the hospital.
The UN Migration Agency estimates the vessel was carrying at least 700 people, including 40 children. Others say that number could be over 100. As the search for survivors continues, little is known of the women and children who many fear were staying in the hold of the boat, remaining trapped when it capsized. Authorities say the boat encountered an issue with its engine and within minutes sank. The Greek Coast Guard has also come under fire after also deciding not to intervene.
Frontex is a European operation which made it possible to identify the boat, to transmit the information to the member states. Then it's the member states that carry out search and rescue operations at sea.
Greek authorities say the vessel seemed to be sailing normally until shortly before it sank and declined offers of rescue. A Supreme Court prosecutor has ordered an investigation into the circumstances of the deaths. Since 2014, the International Organization for Migration estimates that close to 27,000 people died or disappeared trying to cross the Mediterranean.
Thousands of Reddit forums are going dark in one of the largest user-driven protests ever to hit the social media platform. The voluntary blackouts, which restrict groups' content from being publicly visible, affect Reddit's largest online communities, including popular groups devoted to music, history, sports, and video games.
Thousands of popular communities on Reddit went dark on Monday, locking out their users in protest over the company's plan to charge for access to its data. Starting in July, developers using the social media platform's vast troves of data will have to pay a price, and the changes would affect players across the spectrum, from big companies like OpenAI to smaller developers. One popular app, Apollo, has said that charges will cost it $20 million a year. So why is Reddit making the changes? One reason is generative AI. Reddit's forums have a lot of data that could be used to train tools like ChatGPT, and Reddit's CEO Steve Huffman said in April that he doesn't want to, quote, give that value to some of the largest companies in the world for free. Most subreddits have planned a 48-hour blackout, but others, with millions of users like r/music, plan to protest indefinitely. Huffman has acknowledged the frustration among moderators and communities, but said the company needs to be a, quote, self-sustaining business.
Welcome back. For more news, let's take around the world in a minute. Real Madrid confirmed signing English fielder Jude Bellingham for Borussia Dortmund. The 19-year-old is the third player to be signed by the Spanish Giants for a fee of at least €100 million after Gareth Bale and Eden Hazard. Norway, as the country with the most electric vehicles per capita, now plans to soon introduce driverless trucks to deliver mail. Swedish electric self-driving truck company Einride expects to reduce CO2 emissions in Norway as it partnered up with Scandinavia's leading postal service, PostNord. Celebrations turned into chaos as a fire truck carrying Denver Nuggets players ran over a police sergeant during their NBA Finals victory parade. The incident, which occurred close to the Denver City and County building, left the sergeant with a serious leg injury after being struck by the fire truck just 1 block away from the parade's conclusion. Sony's Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse will not be screened in the United Arab Emirates. Vox Cinemas announced the news without explanation amid debate online and among regional movie fans about the animated film's treatment of transgender themes. The K-pop juggernaut BTS plans to release an oral history of the group in South Korea and the United States on the 9th of July. The book, Beyond the Story, 10-year record of BTS, was written by journalist Myung-Chok Kang and members of the group, and it will be published in South Korea by Big Hit Music. That is all from us here at World News Tonight. Join us again on Monday as we keep you up to date with the latest from around the world. In case you missed any of the stories tonight, you can watch the whole program on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/otherderana English. We leave you tonight with the works by iconic Spanish artist Salvador Dali and architect Antoni Gaudí with their masterpieces reborn with light, sound and digital technology. Thank you and have a great rest of your evening.